welcome to the unofficial BSHL Senior Hockey League podcast. What you guys just missed was my co-host Corey singing Real American, the Hulk Hogan entrance theme.
Yep. I love Hulk Hogan. He's my all-time favorite, not.
Corey's a big warrior. Corey's a big
Ultimate Warrior is the greatest of all time, and I don't care what anybody says. Hogan was just a stooge. He was just a politician. I thought this was a hockey podcast.
It is. I just wanted to get you riled up, and it worked.
You just know how to push my buttons.
It really, I do. He was singing it though. I can put the audio in here. If anybody wants to hear the audio, just let me know. I'll send you it.
The thing is, it's a catchy song. It's a catchy song, for fuck's sakes.
It's I only joke with that because I've been watching. I watched a couple episodes of that new Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix, and it's a pretty good documentary. I will say the story is messed, but it's an interesting documentary.
I haven't started yet on Netflix right now. I am watching a wrestling TV show called The Queen of Villains about Dump Matsumoto and the Crush Gals from All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling. 5 episodes and I think 10 hours long.
I guarantee you nobody has heard of that show, but or All Japan Women's Wrestling for that matter. Maybe Connor. If Connor's listening to this, he's probably heard of it for sure.
Yeah, no, I know.
Either Connor or both Connors.
Yeah, Connor. Both Connors.
Both Connors. The Connors. Corey, we're going to throw to our interview with Trey Lewis. So that's going to be coming right now. Corey, you enjoyed this interview?
I did. I was a little under the weather, and I was under the weather, and I feel it's not my best performance, but Trey Lewis is an absolute pro, carried the interview, and thank you very much, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, for sure, man. Trey's awesome. It was a good interview. I think it's, hopefully everybody enjoys it, and we'll get back to discuss that and the Elsipogtog Hawks when we get back. So enjoy the interview.
Enjoy.
All right, Corey from the podcast, joined by Corey as always.
As always.
We're joined tonight by Trey Lewis. How's it going, Trey?
Good. Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on, man. You were our OG interview. Getting you on here for this Hawks episode. I'm pretty excited. How excited are you for the next season of the BSHL Senior Hockey League?
Definitely excited. I mean, just judging from all the other teams' announcements and stuff, it seems like it's going to be some fast hockey, some good hockey, a lot of university level guys, a lot of really good junior A players, major junior players. I mean, I'm just worried at how bad a shape I'm in. That's the biggest worry right now.
How crazy is it how much senior hockey's changed since you started playing only 6 years ago or whatever it was?
It's changed a lot. I mean, it's just the skill level of hockey in general, I think, has gone through the roof, even from the time that I was in major junior and stuff. Like when I was in major junior, there was still goons essentially on every team that could hardly play. You know what I mean? That there's none of that anymore in major junior. And it funnels its way up to senior hockey too. I mean, we haven't really had a fighter, and we've got 4 lines that are good hockey players. They know the game, and it's only going to keep getting better, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very interesting to see year to year how much it changes. But right now we're seeing I don't know. I don't think there was very many guys last year that were just out there just to fight. Everybody could put the puck in the net at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most of the league would agree that if the goons are definitely disappearing. I don't think, like you said, there was any just straight up goons, or maybe 1 or 2, but they've played in the league before. It's not like they can't stand up, really. You don't really see any of that anymore. Maybe 1 gong show a year, something like that. But that's what the fans like to see at the same time.
Yeah, I think the fans want to see it. The fans like to see the guys that can play, but also drop the gloves when necessary is the key. When it fits into the game, it makes sense. Talk to me about the Hawks season last year. Didn't finish the way you guys would have wanted, but you had a great year. Attendance was through the roof. I mean, you guys had a packed Kent North a lot of those nights.
Yeah, I mean, this will be, I'm sure it'll be no different this year. We like our team this year, but like you said, last year we still had great crowds. I thought we just had a lot of bad luck in the regular season. and then even worse luck in the playoffs. A lot of those games we would just get down early, which is typical Hawks hockey, I think. But we just weren't able to complete the comeback a lot of times last year. We'd be down, 4-1 after one, and then we'd come back, tie it, give up one late. We lost a lot of one goal games, and then playoffs rolled around, and we had a couple bad injuries, couple bad luck, like Mackenzie Brown getting kicked out of Game 7, and Alex Arsenault. Mackenzie Brown for fighting, and Alex Arsenault for a major penalty for checking from behind. The guy weighs like 140 pounds, and on top of that, we had some prior commitments, some guys that just weren't there for that game. We finished that Game 7, I think, with 10 skaters, literally. We had a couple injuries in the game. We had a couple kicked out. We had only 15 that showed up to begin with. So we literally finished the game with 4D and 6 forwards, and we brought them to double overtime. I would have liked to seen a series, us with our full squad against Dalhousie. I think we would have gave them a real run for their money. Dalhousie beat us good up in Dalhousie. Good on them. They're a really good team. They were no doubt the best team last year. But at the game in Rishabukto, it was one of those games where we went down, I think it was even 5-1 after the first period. And then we actually really took the play to them for the second and third, almost completed the comeback. We were all over them for the almost 2 full periods of that game. It would have been a good series.
I agree. I think that would have been a phenomenal series to see. You mentioned Dalhousie. That's become a ridiculous rivalry these last couple of years with you guys. I mean, and it always has been historically. Rishabukto, Elsipogtog with Dalhousie region, there's been something there, but these last couple of years, man, those are some of my funnest games to get to. Not to mention that Hawks fans go to Dalhousie like a bunch of maniacs that I love, and Dalhousie fans come here, which is incredible.
Yeah, like you said, it's always been a rivalry. I think it's because Dalhousie has such good local hockey players, and we take pride in that here in Rishabukto, LC too. Our locals are great, and we're proud of that. So it makes for some exciting games. We both have tough guys too. We all remember the big show at Sawyer there a couple of years back, and even last year. We just reach out and we'll dress a fighter, you'll dress a fighter, give the fans a little bit of a show, and then on top of that, some really good hockey after that. That last game in Rishabukto, we had the 2 big fights right off the opening face-off in Rishabukto. And then after that, it was just a really good hockey game for the rest of the periods. And even it's intense when the skilled guys, like the non-fighters, are, in a scuffle after every single whistle. It felt like there was a big scuffle and, it was heated. But that just means it's good competitive hockey.
Agreed. I think there was a really good fight in Dalhousie too. Sawyer had a good tilt with Morrison. That was one of the best fights of the year, in my opinion. Those guys really just went at it and then shook hands and hugged afterwards. It's just hockey.
Yeah, exactly. And Sawyer's a tough guy to fight. Sawyer's 6'5". He's got that long reach, and they both landed some real big shots. So good on both of them. Sawyer's a guy we're going to miss this year for sure.
Yeah, Sawyer's heading off to Nashville, so we're going to be missing Sawyer from the Hawks this year.
Yeah, sucks to say. He's a huge part of our D-core. Just a, probably the best shutdown D in the league, really. I don't think he gets enough credit. I would not want to be playing as a forward against Sawyer. You can't get away from him. He's a good skater for how big he is. He's got such a long reach, and he's mean, right? He played against some high-level guys in junior and university and, a little bit of pro. And that's a big hole to fill, but, we're going to miss him.
100%. We're seeing the Hawks transition from being that gritty team that, not saying you guys were fighters, but last year you guys had a really skilled team, especially after you signed Alex Arsenault. You kind of saw them, especially Robbie and Alex, have incredible chemistry. Talking a little bit about that forward team that we see coming together year after year.
Yeah, I would still say that our strength is our D-core. We've got our D is just crazy, especially considering, we're all considered local. Kret's from Quebec, but he lives here now. But as far as our forwards, everything revolved around Robbie. Without Robbie, we'd be a completely different team. and Robbie's carried us, a lot of years. And to have Alex come at Christmas time last year it was a savior, really, for Robbie and Alex to play together. And on top of, Mackenzie Brown was a huge pickup. He's a guy who played in the Northern Senior League for River Valley Thunder there for many years up in Perth. And, he was one of their top offensive guys. So for us to luck out and have him move down to Elsie, that's helped us a ton too. And we still have
another logo
bet and Scotty Sack. I mean, that guy's, I think he's an 87. So he's like,
wow,
he's about Crosby's age. And the stuff he does out in those games still is just incredible to watch.
Is Scotty back this year? Is that what you're confirming for us?
Well, I texted him. He said he was interested in playing. Scotty lives in Nova Scotia. It is a tough drive for him, but hey, we tell him every year, if you get your minimum amount of games in, and Scotty's a guy that'll show up for all the playoff games. He last year he unfortunately hurt his knee.
Okay.
And on top of that, he had a issue with his eye. It was like a muscle in his eye.
Okay.
And it was affecting him big time. Like he'd come up to us in between periods and say, "How does my eye look?" And it'd be like almost completely pointing inwards. And he's, Scotty's fumbling passes and his stick handling's not up to par, and he's still out there playing. It's, my God, it was probably super dangerous for him to do that, but that's Scotty. But he says his eye's good and his knee's feeling better. So, as many games as he wants to play, we'll have him.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Scotty Sack. He had a beautiful breakaway goal in Spring Hill last year. That was just, man, guy's so talented, such a nice guy. Who else is back? Can you drop me a couple names here, Trey?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of looking at our lineup right now. Alex and Robbie are back. That's just huge. Mackenzie Brown's back. Wayne Jones is back. That guy's Mr. Reliable. Creighton Santapass, Tristan Joseph, our staples that are at all the games. Brett Bernard is going to play again. He was huge for us in playoffs last year. Arguably one of our top three players in playoffs. He had those big goals in Game 7. I'm playing again. I'll try to get into as many games as I can. I'm feeling old, but no, I'm looking forward to get back out there. And all our D-core's back except for Sawyer, really. I mean, Justin Guittard's unreal for us. Elijah Francis might have been our best player in playoffs last year, but he's just D don't get quite as much glory as the guys scoring the goals, I guess. Jeremy Hebert's back. All our D are back. Andy Joseph's going to give it another year.
Nice.
Heavy in the corners, Andy Joseph.
Do you have any new guys on D that you want to talk to us about other than your junior A guys?
Yeah, we signed, I think we announced it maybe a couple months back, with one of our Moncton cards. We got a guy, Keegan Hunt, who, he's a really good junior A player, defenseman. He was up for a couple of years in the Q too. And, he's got good Q experience, and he was a great junior A guy. And from what I hear, he's really good defensively. And, losing Sawyer, I mean, that's what we need. We need good defensive defensemen. Elijah's super offensive. Danik's super offensive. Guittard's got some offensive flair, and Jeremy Hebert is just, very skilled. So we don't mind having a little more defensive defensemen.
You guys also brought in Caden Peck and Brody MacArthur. Brody MacArthur, who's one of the leading scorers in MHL history, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's a huge signing for us. Yeah. We're super excited about that, and to have him playing on lines with guys like Mackenzie Brown, Robbie, Alex, those are going to be some exciting combinations, I think, and the fans are going to love our offensive punch, I think, this year for sure.
Awesome, man! I can't wait to see it. Last year, you're busy. I mean, it's something you've mentioned. You have kids now. You're a teacher. You have commitments, and Cody McDonald's really stepped in and helped out in some huge ways. So is his father, who's known all around the Maritimes, honestly, in hockey. Robert, talk to me about the importance and how amazing they were last year, especially Cody.
Oh yeah, Cody was huge. I mean, the year before, I did everything by myself, and it was scraping by game to game, pretty overwhelming, to be honest.
Yep.
I just wanted to keep the team going, and that was kind of my goal, to just kind of take it week by week, game by game. And if it wasn't for how amazing our fans were, we might not have made it through that year. And then last year, my twin girls were born in October, and so last year kind of seems like a blur. Newborn twins only going off, 3 hours of sleep a night. The whole season kind of seems like a blur, but that just shows how much Cody did for the team last year. He's the head coach, and he did almost everything on game days for me, and even as far as getting us a ton of sponsors. And the amount of work that he did for the Hawks last year is, there's no words for it. I mean, we wouldn't have ran last year if it wasn't for Cody. 100%.
Love to hear it. Definitely a great guy. Corey, do you have any questions?
One thing that I noticed last year and the year before, the Hawks, their depth is, I think it's second to none in the league. One of my favorite guys last year, Wayne the Train Jones. I'm gonna say that nickname until it sticks. That's another guy in the playoffs that really stepped up.
Oh, 100%.
These guys like Wayne Jones and not the bottom six, not the bottom forwards, but these guys, what do they bring to the Hawks?
I mean, depth is so huge, especially come playoff time, right? Like you saw what happened with us. Injuries are pretty common in playoffs. Springtime, I know fishing starts and stuff like that, and people go on March break, and there's so many commitments come springtime, and that's when you really rely on those guys. Like you said, Wayne Jones was a guy that played almost every game for us. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter what line he played on. He could play first line center, second line center. He'd kill penalties. He'd be on the power play, and you always knew what you were getting from him. For a guy to have that much consistency is so important in senior hockey. Yeah. So like a guy like Wayne Jones, a guy like Creighton Santapass, you know what you're going to get from him every game, and he's going to be at most of the games, giving his all. A guy like, Marc-Andre Arsenault, who was a wily vet for us last year. Yeah. He played huge minutes for us in playoffs, and just little things like winning faceoffs is so important, and having some hockey sense, being in big games and knowing where to be on the penalty kill. Just little things like that a lot of people might not notice is so important. Yeah. And that's why we're so lucky in Elsie to have that depth. Like you said, I mean, we've got guys that played major junior. We got guys that played university, even some pro, and to have those steady eddies that are at all the games, it's, that's so huge to your team success.
You mentioned that the depth and all that. The biggest moment that I can think of last year for me with the Hawks is in that Game 7 versus River Valley, where Robbie Graham, if the puck is just a little to the left or a little to the right, it's in the back of the net. And you guys were shorthanded. This was in overtime. And I remember we're around a bunch of Elsie fans, and they're like, that's going in, and it just didn't go in. It was that close. So the depth is really, really important.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, Robbie was a little snake bitten in playoffs. The guy absolutely controls the play every shift that he's on. He just couldn't seem to buy a goal there in playoffs. But that's where you have guys step up. Like you said, Brett Bernard, he had 2 goals in Game 7, the tying goal and one earlier in the game too. And that's a guy that didn't get much spotlight or much credit, but much like Wayne Jones, he can play on the first line. He can play on the fourth line. He can play on your power play. He can kill penalties, right? Brett, we've even used him on D before, right? Like those utility guys are so important.
The other person that you guys signed this offseason, we haven't talked about yet, but he was actually on the other side of the ice in that Game 7. And both goalies in that game played just outstanding, man. Daigle's a guy you can always go to, but Jason Ryu, you guys signed him in the offseason. Talk to me about him a little bit. What brought him to Elsipogtog? How did this all come down?
Well, he's a guy too that played with in U to M, so he knows a couple guys on our team already, and Julian played unbelievable for us in playoffs, and him and Mario were at every game for us, and that level of commitment, when you're getting into your mid-30s is crazy, and we can't thank them enough. But like I said, they're getting a little older, and myself included. I feel it. There's times I don't really want to go up to Trackety or Shippagan on a Friday night. So to be able to bring in Ryu and take the brunt of the workload, it's going to be huge for them. I know Julian, he's fighting injuries quite a bit, and to be able to rotate the three and that's going to be huge for us this season. And I think just looking at what he did to us in the series against Dopetown, it's pretty exciting to have him on our side for this season.
Awesome, man. Exhibition game this Saturday, Junior Seahawks versus the Elsipogtog Hawks, open to fans. So hopefully we see a few people get up to that. Yeah,
hopefully it should be like last year. We'll have a handful of guys. It'll probably be two mixed teams, right? So we'll mix up the senior players with the junior players, and make it competitive. And I think they talked about maybe doing a shootout at the end or something along those lines. But it's definitely a good time to showcase the junior team and the senior team. It's huge for our community that we've got both of those teams now. For Elsipogtog, the senior Hawks, for our community to be able to come and see really high level hockey. We've got a lot of really good players that played all over the place in high levels of hockey. And for our community to be able to come out, see them in an Elsipogtog jersey, you know what I mean? It makes people want to get on the ice, want to play some hockey, and get out and see the world a little.
Yeah, and it's exciting for those junior Seahawks to get out there, play with their the senior Elsipogtog Hawks, and know that one day they'll probably be wearing those senior colors as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's the junior C team has been so crucial for motivating some of those kids that are high school age and
100%.
Be able to play for their hometown community, and then to see the progression to go from the junior Seahawks to the senior Hawks once you've aged out is, I think that's motivating for them. And it can, if it keeps one kid out of trouble or on a right path, that's success in a lot of people's eyes. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, 100% agree. If it really does motivate some kids, and if it gives them something to shoot for, then that's awesome. And playing senior hockey is not what it was 20 years ago, man. So it's definitely something to shoot for.
Yeah.
And then you can go on the podcast. We'll talk to you one day.
Exactly. There you go.
All right, Trey. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you a lot. And can't wait to get to the Kent North in 2 weeks from Sunday. 2 weeks from Sunday. We're going to be there.
Coming up. Good Lord.
God help us all. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trey. Appreciate you, bud.
Thank you, Trey.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, Corey. Trey was very generous, much like our friend last week, Doug White, with the Miramichi Northman. Trey was really generous, gave us lots of information. All right, so let's talk about one thing. When we started talking about rivalries, he mentioned immediately the Dalhousie Marauders.
Yep. You've been barking up that tree for months now that's a can't miss rivalry. It's undeniable now. Last year he said Miramichi was the biggest rival. Now he's saying Dalhousie. It shows you what one season did.
I think I agree with you. I still think Miramichi is a huge rival. Obviously, Bucktouche is a huge rival, but those Dalhousie Elsipogtog games are getting they're heated, they're intense, and we're gonna have 4 of them this year. So
crazy.
That's pretty exciting.
Crazy. It is.
I think I agree with him that has not necessarily come out of nowhere, but it's become a really, really good rivalry. And like you said, it's a lot of both teams have a ton of local talent, good local talent, and that combined with 2 really good fan bases sparks a pretty good rivalry, even though they're about as far away from each other as you can possibly get.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, the LC fans are crazy in a great way because they are the most loyal and passionate group, I think, in the BSHL. They follow the Hawks everywhere.
Dalhousie fans follow Dalhousie fans everywhere.
Fans,
look at that Bucktouche series last year.
Oh, yes, I agree with you. How loud are the Hawks fans, though?
Yeah, I agree. I think in Lumberjack territory last year in the playoffs, that was crazy.
Yeah, it just we talked about Dalhousie having this chemistry.
Yep.
There's probably as much chemistry with the Elsipogtog Hawks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of the guys have played together in the past, right?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to see what the Hawks can do this year, because last year Trey even said it in the interview. There was a lot of bad luck, a lot of, going down, and usually in these moments they go deep inside and they find a way to win. And a lot of these times last year they didn't. I don't know. The Hawks don't sleep on them. I think the Hawks are going to surprise a lot of people.
So the Hawks start their schedule on the road in the Peninsula on Friday, October 11th. We're going to be there. We're looking forward to being there for Charles Austin's jersey retirement. So that is going to be a special evening for us, for Charles, for I think everybody in the Peninsula. But the Hawks are there to kind of send a message that they're here to play this year. They're coming for the win, and I can't wait to see it.
When the Hawks lost to the Lumberjacks last year, now I'm going to say something. It might ruffle some feathers. Just an opinion thing. The Hawks went down shorthanded, very shorthanded. Mac Brown was ejected from the game. Alex Arsenault ejected from the game. Denick Crit, he was injured. Sawyer Hanna was not there. They went there shorthanded. And in that first overtime, they came within an eyelash of making it to the second round. An eyelash. It was that close.
Robbie Graham.
While that shorthanded. Yeah. With the full bench, sorry, Lumberjack fans, the Hawks probably take it. And we don't get that magical run that the Lumberjacks went on. That's a memory that I'll cherish forever. But call a spade here. They were an eyelash. If Ryu's glove is a little to the left or a little to the right, that puck's in the back of the net. And when the Hawks lost, I immediately looked at Corey and I said, the Hawks are going to be a nightmare next year because they are going to make the league pay. I still stand by those words. I think the Hawks are still going to be one of the top teams in the league. And they're going to be very interesting because I'm saying this, they could shit the bed. Who knows? But I think last year they got embarrassed, plain and simple. They were outworked. I'm not even going to say outworked. They were just, it didn't go in their way.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're on the road in the playoffs in double overtime with, I think, 10 guys on your bench.
Yeah.
And credit to Julien Daigle. He kept them in that game. He played great. He played outstanding. And credit to Jason Reeves. You're right. That Robbie Graham chance was incredible. That was one of the best games of the playoffs.
Yep.
We saw the run they took the year before the Hawks. They went undefeated for a long time. The league is not the league that it was 2 years ago.
No.
I think it's just more competitive this year. I don't think anybody's going to go undefeated until Christmas. No. It's just not going to happen this year. Sorry, folks. It's just not on the cards, I don't think. I hope I'm wrong there. That would be a hell of a story, but I doubt it. There's too much competition. I do think that the Hawks are going to be a contender again this year, not only because of that chemistry and because they have something to prove, but also because of some of the signings. While they haven't made huge big name signings that we've seen some of the other teams make, some of which is announced, some of it is rumored. If you've heard the rumors, you've heard the rumors. If you haven't, then go to Tim Hortons. I don't know what to tell you. They're everywhere. But there's some big signings possibly coming down the pipe here. And there's been a lot of big signings. You're looking at guys like Kelsey Tessier in the league now. Every team has gotten better, period. Bar none. Every team's gotten better.
Yep.
Have the Hawks gotten better than last year?
Yes. 100% yes.
100% yes. Why?
Jason Ryu.
I agree with you. I think they've gotten better. The junior A kids are going to be great. So let's get into the interview and talk about what he talked about. Sawyer Hanna's gone this year. He won't be back.
Yep.
That hurts.
That hurts a lot. They still have their top three, probably even top two best D-men in the league. I think, and the chemistry again, like Trey Lewis, Elijah Francis, Justin Guittard, Danick Cret, Hebert, it's incredible that defensive core right there.
I agree with you completely. I think losing Sawyer Hanna, you're not going to be able to replace a Sawyer Hanna. Sawyer brings size. He's a good skater, solid defensively. He can pinch in offensively. It's hard to replace a guy that's that big. It just is.
Yeah.
But I think last year they brought in Hebert, who ended up being a solid player for them. And their decor is still impressive. People that we know that are back this year: Hebert, Guittard, Trey, Danick Cret, Elijah Francis. He mentioned Andy Joseph coming back for another year. And Andy is a leader. Andy's been around senior hockey for a long time. He can still play well, but I love what he brings in the locker room, and I love what he brings to that bench. I think that decor is still going to be one of the best in the league.
Absolutely.
And that's before we talk about them signing Keegan Hunt. Keegan Hunt, who's a junior A signing, is also a defenseman. So again, did the decor lose a lot by losing Sawyer Hanna? Undoubtedly. Did they gain enough to make up that loss? I don't know. Time will tell.
It's a maybe for me there as well, because Sawyer's a big body. I don't know if it's fair to compare him to losing a Nick Foran, because Nick brings so much. Sawyer brought a lot too.
100%.
But it's one of those things where, like, that's the best example I can give right now, because Miramichi still has a great defensive core as well.
I agree with you. I think it's hard to say compared to any other team losing anything, but losing Sawyer is going to hurt the Hawks. I think there's some kids aging out of junior B, junior C that might make the jump to the Hawks. I hope they haven't been announced yet, but just knowing the rosters from last year, I hope some of those kids decide to keep playing. And if they do, I hope they decide to play for the Hawks, because seeing some of those guys come onto the D-core that were with the Hawks a couple of years ago when they made that championship run would be phenomenal. Would be fun to see. So that's what I'm hoping. Offensively, he announced the return of the big three: Robbie Graham, Alex Arsenault, Mac Brown. As a Hawks fan, you must be ecstatic, right? If you're listening to this and you're a Hawks fan, you've got to be like, this is stellar.
I think if that's a line in the BSHL, I think it's a top three line at least. They're in the top three, in my opinion.
And I think they're going to get split up. I mean, I don't think that's going to be the line. But those are the three big locals that are all back. And they're all young. They're all in the prime of their career. So
Scotty Sack coming back is something that kind of like shocked me a little bit, because I thought I'd heard he was done for good. And he's coming back for one more season, which, good.
Yeah.
More Scotty Sack in the league is good for the league.
I think Scotty's in his mid to late 30s, so Scotty's got some years left if he wants to. As long as Scotty wants to play in this league, I hope there's a place for him, because I love Scotty. I love seeing him play. He brings an energy to the Hawks. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back. We've also got, Marc-Andre Arsenault was mentioned. He's back. Creighton Sanderpass is back.
Wayne the Train Jones.
Wayne the Train Jones. These are the guys that are there game in, game out. So we're happy to see them back. They also signed Caden Peck and Brody MacArthur. Brody MacArthur being a major point getter in the MHL. So that's going to be, again, some serious offensive flair for the Hawks. While they're not the big names that you might see in other teams, there's some solid signings.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd probably argue that the Hawks don't need those big name signings, because some of those big names are locals. Corey's going to die over there from his COVID. He's still coughing up a storm.
Yeah.
My God, Corey. Good mute there. That was you barely caught it.
Just at the end there. And it takes one to know when Corey's.
Yeah, I just muted and coughed as well. We're both under the weather. We're trying to get through this, folks.
Yeah.
Goaltending wise, announced the return of everybody from last year. Honestly, Daigle's back, Babineau's back, and then you're adding Ryu. So now you've got a 3-man goalie core for the Hawks. I think that's going to give them a little more flexibility. Somebody's got to get somewhere. It's really impressive that they got through last year with 2 goaltenders.
Yeah.
I know they brought up, why can't I think of his name from the junior Seahawks? Darn it. But they brought him up and it's really not, it's right there in my head and it's just not coming to me. Sorry about that. But he came up, did some backup for the Hawks when needed, but for the most part they ran with just 2 goaltenders, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. But this year you had Ryu, who's a legitimate starter, proved what he can do under pressure in the playoffs with the Lumberjacks. Against the Hawks, against the Northmen, against the Marauders. I don't think they get to the finals without Jason Ryu.
No, I think that's a fair point. And, I hope Lumberjacks fans don't get offended by this because I was a huge fan of the run they went on. If the Lumberjacks would have won, I would have been as happy as seeing the Marauders win. It's a Cinderella story. You got to love it. And the fact that they beat the Hawks, shorthanded or not, you beat the Hawks in the playoffs in Game 7 in double overtime.
You beat the champs.
You then beat Miramichi in 7 games. Didn't they play more playoff games than regular season games? Did you tell me that?
I think it was close. It wasn't more, but it was close. So I think they played 7, 14, 20. It might have actually been more. I think there was 18 regular season games. And they played 20 playoff games, which is kind of bananas.
Yeah, it is. But Jason Ryu became a superstar in this league just with that performance. Didn't get to hold that trophy. Didn't get the BSHL Cup. Came two games short. Can he do it with the Hawks?
I think the talent's there. I think the Hawks are one of those 3 the problem is that the Hawks are one of the 3 or 4, maybe 5, 6 teams that could win the Cup this year. Yeah. Like, it's really difficult to narrow it down to a team. We are going to narrow it down to a team in a couple of weeks and pick our pick for who's going to win the BSHL championship, which last year we both picked the Miramichi Northmen and we're dead wrong.
I believe you had, I forget who your finals was.
It was probably Dalhousie Miramichi.
Maybe I picked.
It might have been the Hawks and Miramichi.
No, I had the Hawks and Miramichi, and I said that Miramichi would win. I think I said Miramichi would win in 6. And,
so the way the playoffs are going to work this year is the top 2 teams are going to get a bye. The bottom 4 teams are going to face off in the first round. The winners of those 2 series are going to go out and play against the 2 teams that got a bye in the semifinals, and then the semifinals will finish and we'll have a final. So we're going to have 3 rounds, but 2 teams are going to get a bye. Last year we saw playoffs. Injuries hamper teams. Mm-hmm. Injuries almost took out the Northmen or the Lumberjacks. The Northmen as well, but the Lumberjacks in the finals especially. They were playing really short, losing Patterson, losing important guys. Chauncey was out. It's hard to win when you're down that many. So I think getting top 2 and getting that bye in the first round, giving your team a couple weeks to chill, it's going to be priceless.
I think it makes the regular season important. It makes those wins matter because I remember all last year, the real season starts in January or February, whenever the playoffs started. Now you got something to fight for, those 2 bye spots. So I'm interested in this. I'm interested in the BSHL. Who would have thought it? Huh?
Shocker.
I think it's going to be a fantastic season. I think all 6 teams are going to be fantastic. The only downfall here is one team has to finish last, one team has to finish 5th, one team has to finish 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st.
It's going to be interesting to see the journey to there. So we agree that we think the Hawks are going to be a contender again this year. A young team, but with a lot to prove. and
Mm-hmm.
definitely improved in goal. That's where they've improved the most, in my opinion. And up front as well, though. A little more depth up front's going to help. But Jason Ryu, as great as Daigle and Babineau were last year, I think Ryu is just that little maybe step in experience that they were missing.
I agree.
Let's cover some of the rest of the league. Corey, last Saturday, you were sick. You were sick as heck. You had COVID. Tracy and I made the trip to the beautiful Amherst Stadium for the Amherst Ducks inter-squad game in practice. We had a lot of fun. It was good to be back in the rink. The practice was intense.
Yeah.
They kind of slowed it down for the inter-squad game, I'm going to tell you the truth. During the practice, there was some almost like legit hits. Like there was some physical play. And it's like, you guys are all in the same team here. Let's, and it kind of joked about that. Some of the guys joked about that with me before the intra-squad, that they were going to slow it down a little bit for the intra-squad, and they did. But you saw the skill in the intra-squad game, especially in the second period, because there was only, I think, 24 or 25 guys on the ice.
Yeah.
So you start to see guys take 2-minute shifts, 4-minute shifts, which might not be an issue for some guys, Parker Deegan, for example, who's in ridiculous shape. And, some of these guys are, but some of the guys are coming off of a difficult summer. As we heard Trey Lewis mention, he feels like he's out of shape right now, and it takes a couple months to get back into shape. So some of those guys they were struggling by the end, I think. No offense to anybody, but that's when we really saw the skill guys kind of deke around people and get some breakaways and show off some nice moves. But it was a great day of hockey. Always fun to get out there. We went out to a pub and had some supper before, or some lunch between. Can't remember the name of the pub that we went to, but man, this is a food podcast where we pretend that we're going to talk about hockey. Let's be honest right now. So I got a club sandwich, which was phenomenal. Tracy got some Cajun shrimp. That was
the shrimp.
It was so hot that her eyes were watering. It was great. Right now, everybody has COVID. FYI, Corey has COVID. Tracy has COVID. Or Corey's probably over COVID now. Tracy tested negative today. I'm sick as heck. So I don't know where everybody caught it, but it seems like everybody everywhere right now has it. So screw it.
It's weird. It's weird how it started with just a little dry cough.
Yeah.
Just nothing more than that. And my boss was like, "Can I test you?" And I'm like, I'm fine. He's like, "Can I test you?" No,
and then it was.
There it was. He's like, put a mask on, go back to work.
This Saturday, the Hawks and the Junior Seahawks are going to have an inter-squad game, 6:30 p.m. in Elsipogtog. So hopefully some people can get out to the rink and support that. We'll be there as long as we're healthy enough.
Yeah.
Corey, you'll probably be there because you probably will be healthy enough. Hopefully I'll be better by then.
Yeah.
If not, look to Corey for some coverage. There was also an announcement that next Friday night, Friday, October the 4th, I believe it is, the Miramichi Northmen are going to be facing off against the Tri-County Express. Yeah.
From the Southern League.
Yeah. So they play out of Fredericton Junction, out of the Tri-County Arena, something. I don't remember what it's called. Screw me. I'm an idiot. And then the next night they play again, but in Tri-County.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because there's a lot of people that asked me, "Do you guys cover the Southern League?" I'm like, no, it's the BSHL podcast. So
yeah,
kind of obvious.
And we don't yet. We keep an eye on it. We talk about it a little bit. I think there's going to be some added interest this year because I think we're going to be seeing some BSHL guys from River Valley, but from elsewhere as well, show up in some of the other leagues in New Brunswick. So if we see that happen, then we'll cover that a little bit just because we're interested.
Yeah, the main focus is still the BSHL. It's right 100%. In our backyard, and we've made some great relationships with the teams, and we're pretty loyal to the Beausejour Senior Hockey League.
It's hard to cover more than one league, I'm going to be honest. It's hard to cover an entire league. It's hard to cover more than one team. I'll be straight honest with you. But we'll keep an eye on the other leagues, and I'd like to try to get out to a game or two.
I would too.
In some of the other leagues. I think we might try to make our way to Minto if some of the old BSHL guys are playing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, and what our schedule looks like, what the BSHL schedule looks like.
Yeah.
It's hard to skip out on a BSHL game to get to a Southern League with the BSHL podcast.
Not only that, but we also have a wrestling podcast, and we got to catch some wrestling shows too.
Which is why we won't be in Miramichi on October 4th.
Yeah, we got North Pro.
We want to be there really badly, but
tickets are already bought.
And even if the tickets weren't bought, North Pro is a phenomenal show that night, so we'd want to get to it regardless.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have anything else you want to talk about tonight, Corey? Anything you want to bring up? Rum.
Rum.
What the fuck you doing? No plug.
How about I got another YouTube channel called The Maritime Warrior. Please go subscribe. I do old school wrestling.
Corey's been doing a lot of that. Are you going to be doing some reviews of this documentary on Netflix?
We're going to be doing that on Wrestling with the Bros.
Interesting.
On next week's mainstream show. If it goes too long, we'll split that and put that on its own. But The Maritime Warrior, that's one that I'd like people to go check out.
Yeah, check out The Maritime Warrior on YouTube for all of your classic wrestling needs, especially, and a little touch of maritime wrestling. I know you've got some plans of a couple things you're going to sprinkle in there.
Yep, that's all for next year. My main series right now is Wrestling in 1990. It's been going great. Do a wrestling promotion a month from 1990, and cat's out of the bag now. The series is ending in December, but January a sequel happens. So not going to spoil that right now, but yeah.
I know what it is. Do you want me to spoil it?
I would rather you not.
All right, I'll shut my mouth then. Fine. God, what a dick. All right. Well, thanks to Trey for coming on. Thanks to everybody for listening. And we hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll be back next week with some of our schedule breakdowns and discussing the new season to come. I can't believe we've done all 6 teams now, Corey. So
we've done it.
We're God knows, we might just come in here and sing for you guys next week. I don't know what we're gonna do.
I am a real American.
See you guys next week.
Take care.